Really happy to be back at DevGAMM. One of the first talks I gave for Genvid was actually in Minsk back in 2019. It's good to meet with friends, both Russian and Ukrainian, in these very challenging times. So welcome. I'm going to talk about audience-driven entertainment and massively interactive live events, or MILES. I'll cover a little bit about myself and Genvid. I'll talk about massively interactive live events. I'll talk a little bit about spectator-centric design and what it means, what we mean by audience-driven entertainment, and then I'll jump into the case studies of Rival, Peak, and The Walking Dead Last Mile. So my name is Christopher Hamilton. I'm the Director of Developer Relations in Europe for Genvid Technologies. And Genvid Technologies was founded in 2016 by some Square Enix veterans. It's a US-based startup. We have offices in New York, Montreal, LA, Tokyo, London, and Berlin. I'm sort of a lone wolf in Helsinki, reporting to the Berlin office. We've raised $166 million to date. You can see our funders kind of here on the bottom. And I'll just point out Galaxy Interactive and Makers Fund because we have people from both of those funds on our board. And then we also have some amazing advisors like ex-Square Enix CEO Ichiwata, digital media executive Matt Ball, who has released a book on the metaverse that's just coming out this summer that is on everybody's must-read lists. Anna Sweet, who was instrumental in building Valve and Steam into what they are today. She's currently the head of studio at Bad Robot Games. Cindy Holland, who is VP for original content at Netflix. And JT Gleason, who was at Twitch for more than 8 years in key roles leading both partner and developer relations. So our mission is to power the future of interactive media. We believe that people love shared experiences, particularly when their participation matters. So be it gaming, sports, or reality TV, these are the events that become those water cooler moments in the office when everybody gathers around and talk about what they saw. And we're already creating these experiences on top-tier platforms with partners. Games and media have been this sort of ongoing evolution, and they're coming into a convergence. Games are looking to reach out to wider audiences of non-gamers, and media is seeking the stickiness that games have. And we've been helping developers create new experiences and new forms of gameplay, often with an interplay between players and viewers. And over the years, we've been evolving and moving our focus to MILES, or massively interactive live events, which is sort of a new form of entertainment with the viewing audience collectively driving a narrative forward. The concept that you would watch people play games used to be limited to just sitting on the couch waiting for your turn to play the game. Today we're seeing about as many people watch games as play them. How do we as game developers create content that maximizes the opportunity not just for our player base, but also for those people that are watching? And maybe these people only want to engage for a short amount of time, or they don't have a lot of time to actually engage in the content. And that's a lot of what we've been looking at and what is creating the foundation of MILES. And this vision of MILES comes from 13 years of experience, work and research in the game streaming space by video game veterans from Square Enix. Back in 2009, the people that I work with were really thinking about the future of games and interactivity and what we could do with things if we could render something in the cloud, or we had things that were AI driven, and started to build prototypes around this. And at this time, Twitch didn't exist, and Facebook and YouTube didn't have live streaming. And so what does this interactive media look like? Visual media, TV, movies, it all started in the 1920s. It all becomes interactive with video games in the 1970s. Video game broadcasting takes off in the 2010s. And the future, most likely, is some sort of very highly immersive VR-like experience. But there's an opportunity between traditional media and fully immersive games that we think is compelling for video game developers today. Video games typically require my full attention. I cannot play Candy Crush or Angry Birds or Clash Royale without giving that game my full attention. I have to keep tapping that screen. The average American watches 5 hours of television a day. But really they only give their full attention to about 1 hour, and it's going to be some sort of premium show maybe Better Call Saul, I don't know what you're all watching, was Game of Thrones back in the day. But there's an incredible amount of content that's being made for people that just have TV going on in the background, and they're cooking, they're working on something, their attention sort of flows into it and flows out of it. And people don't have time to invest in playing several hours of AAA video games, but I can sort of vicariously experience that by watching people stream. And so we're kind of looking at new opportunities of being able to watch something, but then have the opportunity to impact what they're watching. What if you were watching Netflix and you could change and impact things? And these are basically the types of questions that we've been asking and the things that we've been helping developers build around. So, players have been sort of the core demographic that game developers are thinking about today. But when we look at streaming media and the streaming wars of Netflix, Disney+, HBO Max, we see that there are billions of dollars that are being spent on content today, and we see an opportunity for developers to create interactive content that can be consumed by linear media people that are audiences for linear media. And so, has anybody here seen the Netflix Choose Your Own Adventure movie Bandersnatch? Came out a couple years ago. It was a Black Mirror episode. And so basically, for anybody who didn't see it, there'd be a segment, you'd have an option of things that you could do, and it would sort of jump to the next segment. Imagine what that would look like if it were made by game developers. So what sort of engagement loops would be there? What sort of timing mechanisms would call us back to the game? You could still lean back and watch it like TV, but at the same time you could lean into this, engage with it, have some sort of impact that would drive the story forward. And not just for you, but for an entire community of people that were watching this experience in real time. People from traditional media don't really understand this, but you people as game developers, particularly people that have worked in mobile free-to-play or any sort of free-to-play game, understand those sort of necessary loops to make these engagements successful. So mobile developers who have experience with casual genres, particularly things like idle games, understand sort of short game sessions, and can understand that there's an opportunity to expand the audience beyond players to people who watch the game as well as want to interact with it as well. So Miles are cloud-powered, highly engaging, interactive live broadcast events that allow anyone to be part of a larger audience while directly participating in a meaningful way. They combine the best of lean-forward gaming, lean-back TV, and the thrill of live entertainment. And here the audience will matter, but each individual participant can choose their own level of involvement. And we think of this as a new form of content, a new genre of entertainment. If you want to immerse yourself and have agency, you can. If you just want to lean back and watch it like TV, that's fine too. And by allowing for these different levels of engagement, we open things up to create new audiences and create new revenue opportunities. Game studios are in our position to disrupt the traditional broadcast experience by creating content with this increased interactivity and a better, more interesting viewing experience for the widest audience possible. So during these early years, we worked with a number of companies and R&D projects with various studios. And Rival Peak was born out of a project made by Pipeworks Studios in Oregon. They made a very robust AI game that had 10 characters. They were sort of put on this island, and they would sort of battle to see who would win. And you can see sort of the second and third people have the skull and crossbones. They've sort of been killed already. And this was basically an AI experience. Everybody in the office was transfixed by all this, watching this play out over and over again, which AI character is going to be the survivor on this island. And so they reached out to us because we're working on all these viewing experiences, and they made this demo, which is pictured here on Twitch. And we made it so that users could jump in, there'd be different cameras, and we could launch sort of a drone in that would drop either more powerful weapons so they could kill each other faster, or maybe they would send medicine so they could begin to heal. But now you're the viewer, and you're having an impact on what's happening on the screen. You can kind of play God for a minute and impact what you're watching. And Facebook saw this, and they felt it was kind of compelling, and this all evolved into a multi-million-dollar project called Rival Peak. And Rival Peak was a different type of experience where the characters were not trying to kill each other, rather they were competing with one another in a reality TV show. And it was up to them to not get eliminated from this or voted off the island or whatever, but the audience would have to engage with all these different characters, and the more engagement they had, the more likely they were going to survive. So Rival Peak is a mile, but there are 3 parts to this mile. The first is a Facebook instant game. It is a persistent world. It's very similar to watching Big Brother on television, where there was a 24-hour, 7 days a week stream where the audience could follow what all the contestants were doing. And there were 12 AI contestants, all driven by a sophisticated AI, again, developed by Pipeworks Studios. And voting took place through audience participation events. And I'll touch on that a bit more in a bit, but it's basically user interactions on all these live streams. So the second part of this was Rival Speak, which is a Facebook Watch companion show starring Will Wheaton. And basically this was just sort of an opportunity to jump deeper into the world. It was a half-an-hour video thing. It ran once a week, and it was more like Lost. It had a very complex storyline. Many of the point plots were driven by what actually happened in the instant games during the week. And then Will would also sort of interview some of these crazy AI characters to give the audience more of a backstory of what was going on. The insane thing about this was this, nobody knew, not Will, not the producers, nobody knew who was going to get eliminated week by week. So basically voting would end on Friday. We would know who would get eliminated. We would sort of go through all the player dialogues and remove all of the dialogues from the sort of eliminated character. We would rewrite the script for Will. We would shoot him on Monday, it would go into post-production on Tuesday, then we would launch the new episode on Wednesday. The game would go down, we would be able to load the next week's content into it, while everybody would watch this half-an-hour TV show. And then for all of us in Europe, since this was more geared towards people on the West Coast, we would watch it on demand sort of the following day or whenever we logged in. The third part of this was actually the Facebook platform itself. It used to be that you would live tweet what was going on in your reaction to premium TV shows. This was happening all on Facebook's pages. All the characters had their own page. It was yet another way to get more information about what was happening in this world. And this is sort of a screenshot, or actually it's an animated GIF. And we can see here, this is Portia. And she has to get exercise. This is just one thing that she's doing. I can engage with her live stream. I can tap the sort of idle mechanic here, which we call a project power up. She's getting points, I'm getting points. Hopefully she's not getting eliminated. And basically this is a video stream, and all of these elements are sort of powered by Genvid. So we can get information on Portia, we can read a bunch of dialogues with her. There's sort of leaderboards, settings. These are 3 eliminated characters, and then the rest of them, anyone that has like a little pip or an exclamation point on it means that there's some sort of activity that you can engage in, but you will jump to that character's live stream. It's all instantaneous, it loads very quickly. If anybody's interested, this whole thing is still running in rerun mode. Just use the QR code and you can jump in. So the project ran for 3 months. 100 million minutes being watched, and then the Rival Speak shows, on average, had about 13 million minutes per episode. Basic demographics, the top 5 countries were the United States, Mexico, Brazil, India, and the Philippines. And this is in part because we are optimizing for one Unity instance in the cloud and then broadcasting that to everybody. Normally, if you're trying to reach low-end Android devices, you have to optimize for each handset. Here we don't have to because it's coming in like a video stream. All you need is a device that can play basically a YouTube clip in HD, and you can interact with this. So we were able to reach large audiences in countries that don't normally have opportunities to play a lot of video games. And there were a lot of sort of IP holders from video games that wanted access to some of these markets that have reached out to us since. The experience here is much more like a casual game, so I was very surprised that men were more involved in this than women. Was rather surprised that only 4% of people are using Facebook on PC. Maybe I'm just old. And then I'll point out that iPhone support for this was only brought in midway through the project. So the 12% here is a bit of a misnomer. And now we are on to The Walking Dead: The Last Mile, which just launched on January 11th. We're currently in open beta. This is called the Prologue. And this is the next big installment in the Walking Dead franchise. The story is driven by you, the fans. And again, there's a QR code here. You can scan it. You can jump in. You can log into Facebook. Again, live interactive streams are going to happen regularly with Yvette Nicole Brown and Felicia Day, revealing new story details, but also telling exactly what the fans are doing and how they're actually interacting and how they're shaping the story moving forward. And basically, this is a constantly evolving coastal community in Alaska. And this is all sort of engaged through the instant game. Genvid is serving as the publisher and coordinated the efforts with all the project partners. Skybound was responsible for creating an authentic Walking Dead experience with morally complex narratives, emotionally charged characters, and relatable needs and motives for all these characters. The story and characters and locations will actually become the Walking Dead canon when all this is over, and it's going to unfold over the next 4 months. Terrible Posture Games helped with a lot of the character development. Cyber Group Studios did the animations and cutscenes, and again, Pipeworks Studios took care of the game development. So setting the stage, and again, there's a QR code here if you want to jump in. The mile is set in a remote Alaskan town. The inhabitants are among the last survivors of the undead onslaught. It's a harsh winter, and hordes of walkers are bearing down on them as they fight amongst themselves for resources and authority. And many of your interactions with the Walking Dead Last Mile will generate influence points, and then you can use these influence points to push decisions and make decisions, both large and small, that will impact the story as it happens. Before I can jump into the trailer and the demo, I should point out that when you jump into this, you'll have to create your own survivor, choosing from 12 different classes or skill sets, and then join one of 2 factions. I've already done this, so I can't demo it. And then you can actually send your survivor on a number of quests that will help the community build your influence. And then some of the survivors will actually appear in the cutscenes. There are a number of daily cutscenes. I'll have a character. I can have, through my influence points, get my character actually be in these cutscenes, and that sort of cements them in the Walking Dead canon in the future. So you too can sort of become the history for everything. Let's see how this goes.
The Walking Dead Last Mile is a new innovative gaming experience that puts you, the fans, in charge. You'll meet an all-new cast of characters in a frigid Alaskan village and influence their stories. But be careful, the decisions you make could be life or death for this small community. Pitch in to help the community or sabotage it all and watch the drama unfold in real time. And then join me, Yvette Nicole Brown, as I host an interactive stream every Monday, where I will talk with special guests, show never-before-seen cinematic clips, and reveal the outcomes of your decisions. The story begins on July 11th. Make sure to follow The Walking Dead Last Mile on Facebook right now, so you don't miss a day of the action. Remember, their survival depends on you.
Just jump up here to where I've already logged in. Basically, you're gonna, most everything you're gonna kind of enter through with this map. I'll just start with the daily menu. And this will give us some kind of daily goals of what we've going on. This is day 19 of the prologue. These are a number of things that I can either claim because I've done them, or assignments that I can go through and I can earn points. There's a reward code. If you watch some of the videos, you can enter the reward code and get some influence points for this. And then there's sort of a whole story archive of stuff. So when we come in, we can sort of get a recap of what's going on. And so we can sort of watch what happened in week 2.
In week 2 of The Walking Dead Last Mile, we saw the implications of a disastrous trade. Jamie's death, leaving Dylan distraught and arguing with his mother, Marlena.
No! I couldn't help you. I was right there, and he still died.
About whether or not to find his friend and lay him to rest for good.
I keep thinking of him out there, in the forest. Not alive, not dead. I'm going to look for the body.
You can't be serious.
You, the players at home, bid that it wasn't safe to retrieve Jamie's body. Because of that, only a small group of villagers agreed with Dylan's plan and joined him on the hunt for Jamie.
Anything over there?
Not yet.
We gotta move, guys. Every walker within a half-mile will be on us.
Their forces were overwhelmed, leading to a massacre. And Dylan, the lone survivor, came home empty-handed.
Right. So again, you can see that like your vote really matters. You're kind of shaping the whole story as it goes forward. This is gonna put me into some sort of weird prepare food thing, which I'm not really gonna show you right now. I also have, there's a bit of latency with how this screen is running, so it's a little hard to control the mouse, but there's this melee pressure event that's live now that I can kind of jump into, which I guess I'm gonna have to stab some walkers. And it's just sort of lining up with the very sort of simple point and click adventure type games. And again, you see actual characters in here that could be your character if you actually manage to vote enough influence points to have your character in some of these cutscenes. And there's, I guess I'm in a traveling thing, which gives me an opportunity to collect some resources, if I could control the mouse okay. And this is basically my character being with a team of people that are in the cutscene going from one part of the game to another part of the game. Again, I think I'll just go back to the world map. There are a whole bunch of different areas that you can jump into. So this is the villagers, and within this area there are a number of areas. The shoreline, which has an interesting fishing game. There's a community center. A bunch of people building a wall, which is sort of a almost Tetris-like puzzle game. There's also a visual novel that we can go through. So it's a number of different, basically, puzzle games. Really think hidden object puzzle adventure games that were popular a number of years ago. It's also a shooter thing. Let's see if we can jump into that. This is more of a railgun type exercise. Which, again, is kind of line everything up and shoot. And I am out of ammo. This is bad. But you can see that I'm up here shooting, and then there are a whole bunch of other people in the community that are sort of in this same experience with me. So even if I'm actually horrible at some of these mini games, there is a community of people that will sort of help me get through some of these things. Clearly, I need to go get some more ammo. But that's basically it. You can jump in and watch more videos, you can play mini games, you can get involved in votes, and all of these actions will impact the storyline moving forward. With that, I will jump back here. I will skip through these emergency slides that I set up just in case that didn't work. And just say that this is sort of we're in this blue section right now, which is basically the open beta. We're getting feedback. We're polishing a lot of these things. A lot of these things aren't as tight as we would like them to be. Then we'll take a 2-week break where we'll integrate more features and more mini games into this whole thing, and then we enter basically 3-4-week acts that will take us through mid-November. And again, this is all going to become canon for the Walking Dead universe. So a lot of the stuff that's happening in here, if your characters are really involved in this, you will be immortalized in that canon. Here's the project actually getting presented at Comic-Con recently. You can see the Genvid CEO, Jacob Navok, Yvette Nicole Brown, Felicia Day, Mike Rogers from Skybound Entertainment, Jessica Woodward from Terrible Posture Games, and then Matt Ball, our advisor who also wrote this Metaverse book. He's an advisor to the company and also a producer. We will be at Gamescom August 24th to 26th at the MediaNet booth in the B2B area in case anybody's going to be there. And then key takeaways for all of this. The audience watching live games is growing faster than the games market. This is sort of an expanding blue ocean. We are platform agnostic. We have projects on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Native cloud streaming reduces friction because there's absolutely nothing to download, patch, install. You just jump right into the game. It is highly accessible because it works on low-end devices that are otherwise difficult to support. And we're looking to work with IP holders that are looking to reach new audiences through experiences like this. We're also looking for developers to experience with this tech and build new experiences in this space and sort of push things in new directions. And then we're building a program to certify work-for-hire teams. So if you know people that are looking for work and they have studios, we'd be interested in working with you, and you get a chance to work on maybe some of these exciting IPs. If you want to know more, reach out. Thank you. There's a QR code here. This is to give me feedback on these talks, because I'm a pretty nervous speaker and I'm looking to get better at this. And we keep sort of mixing up these presentations, and what we're doing is kind of unique and weird and different, and it's difficult to explain to a lot of people. So I'm just curious to know if it was understandable, if there's another direction that we can take this in, and with that, I'll take questions.
All right. Do we have any questions here in the audience? No? Yeah. Okay, here's one. Shall we pass the mic? By the way, thank you so much, Christopher. This was great. We'll need the mic because, yeah. Yeah, that's right. But actually, thank you so much, Christopher. It was really interesting to hear about this whole new concept of like gaming. The content was interesting. I find it very surprising, and I would try to wrap my head around this whole new concept. It takes some time.
It does take some time. I find that often I'll explain it the third time and people will kind of get it. When I took the job myself, I was able to ape what my boss was doing. And I'm like, okay, this all sounds good, and I'm kind of repeating the same thing. Maybe a couple months into the company, it sort of dawned on me actually what we were doing and how the tech actually worked. Surprise. So.
Okay. That's a question.
So I came here a bit later than when you started. So some things I asked, maybe you already mentioned them. So forgive me. I can see Dead House Sonata. So you create that game as well?
So we worked with the developers of Dead House Sonata, and what they were doing is they were basically outsourcing the dungeon master to the audience. Okay. They were allowing the audience to set traps for various characters and other aspects of the game, but basically crowdsourcing all of the dungeon master moves to the live audience.
Okay. So regarding this game, specifically this game, so as far as I understood, it's a Facebook game, so you can just access it from Facebook?
So this is basically a Facebook instant game, yeah.
Okay. But from what I've seen, your interaction with other players is quite limited. Like, there are some games you can play, like clicking at the right time, so there are time-based games. You have maybe aim-based game, you have to shoot. But the interaction with other players is quite limited.
The interaction with other players is limited to the extent that you're often put together with different people. You may not know who they are. Social aspects of creating teams aren't necessarily there. You are basically you choose a faction when you join the game. So you're either on the fishing village side or the factory side, and you have slightly different missions and how you do stuff, and you're sort of competing with the other faction, but you're also collaborating with each other to survive, or maybe you're not collaborating with each other and you're sort of sabotaging the other side as well.
Right, so
there will be more sort of communal and social aspects that are getting added to this. There were a lot of tight deadlines for the whole blue open beta launch, so there's a lot of stuff coming in.
It's a very amazing idea. The fact that you can create your brand new character, and by playing this game, you claim points or whatever you call it, credits, and by doing that, by spending these credits, you can actually be part of this universe and be, as you said, remembered as part of this story that unfolds while playing. So it's quite very nice.
I'm super curious to see how it plays out over the next 4 months. So,
yeah. But like what I meant is like a real-time interaction. Like it's more a story-based game from what I saw.
Yep.
So it's not like real-time or the action game.
So, yeah, in the sense that we're all engaging with it in real time, in the sense that this whole world is a persistent world that's constantly streaming, but then collectively over the course of time, all of those impacts get summed up to lead to the course corrections or the narrative directions that the whole storyline takes. So that does unfold over the course of, at least in this case, sort of a 24-hour period. So in the previous example, Rival Peak, we had that one sort of weekly wrap-up show that was filmed, it went into post-production, released it, and it was 30 minutes long, but sort of very highly polished. And with this time as sort of an different sort of experiment, we've got Yvette Nicole Brown doing live streams and talking about what happened the previous day, as well as Felicia Day. It's much more live. It feels much more like a streamer experience. It is less polished, but then again, these are professional actors. So they bring a certain spirit and a certain energy with them. And you get a much more granular feel of how the story is unfolding. So before, with Rival Peak, you're engaging with all these characters, you're doing all these things. A whole week will go by before you know if somebody's been eliminated or not. Right. This is much more granular, where you have smaller course corrections or narrative changes that are happening on a 24-hour cycle.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Just, I'm wondering how you're earning money from this. Can I donate and get something, or how to get money?
With this, because it is a Facebook project, it is more based on engagement and keeping players coming back. A lot of the mechanics here are more like mobile-free things, so we're more focused on engagement loops. And this is kind of what Facebook wants and kind of what we're going for, where I can play this, I can engage with it, and then I can kind of forget about it, or maybe I'm watching a video, maybe I'm doing something else, maybe I've left my computer entirely. I come back to it maybe an hour later because I want to engage in something else. I want to see, has the plot changed? Has a vote been tallied? So in many ways, it's like a mobile game that I play on the bus, and then I come back, but I don't play it for several hours, and then I check back in with the game. So a lot of those engagement loops are very similar. We have 3 other projects that are in development right now. One leveraging a comic book IP, one leveraging a Hollywood IP, and one that may not have been finalized that I'm not going to mention now as well. And those are more geared towards monetization because we haven't selected a partner that we'll be working with for the platform yet. And it might be something that we self-publish and do more sort of monetization experiments to see where we can take this.
Right, thank you. I just have one question. It's really hard to put it in words, basically, but are there pauses between the times when people can interact with the game? Is it all, do you generate the data and then produce all the video content on top, or is it all generated by AI?
So it's kind of, I understand kind of what you're saying, and for the most part, there are live streams that are running 24/7 that you can engage with. At the same time, a lot of the cutscenes that are in there, or the daily summaries, become more like video on demand. And that is primarily there so that if I were to join the game now, we're currently at day 19 in the prologue, I can get a summary of what happened in week 2, and then I can do daily summaries or daily cutscenes, or this is what happened yesterday. And it allows me to kind of, in a way, not start the comic book at day 1, since the community in the world is on day 19 since its creation, but it allows me to quickly get caught up to where we are in real time. because it's not a video on demand. It's not like Netflix where, oh, hey, I watched this amazing thing last night. You should watch it too. It's, hey, I played this amazing thing, and it's a persistent world. It is constantly going, and it is going to be going for the next 4 months. So people that are joining need to sort of get up to speed with what's happened so far.
I see. So does that mean that there's an unlimited way of scenarios? A limited amount of scenarios in the way this game can turn out?
Theoretically, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, that's great. My mind is bamboozled, and I hope yours is too. So if you don't have any other questions, we can wrap it up. And yeah, any more questions?